Hi, thank you for joining me. This is The Collapse of the Old Contact Systems by Jason Gray. 6/2/2026, 6026 Analusis, 1136 GMT -6, #Winnipeg, #Manitoba, #Canada. Historical Resonance Failure Dossier, Archive CCS 014 Omega. Pre-disclosure release authorized. For thousands of years, humanity has asked the wrong question. The question was never, where did they go? The question was, what happened to our ability to hear them? Modern civilization inherited a story of abandonment, a story in which Earth stood alone beneath a silent sky while waiting for a signal that never came. The recovered visitor archives tell a very different story. The sky never became silent. The corridors never disappeared. The network never collapsed, and signal never stopped. Humanity simply became increasingly unable to perceive what had always been there. This revelation sits at the center of every recovered continuity archive. The collapse of the old contact systems was not an external event. It was an internal one. Not a failure of transmission, a failure of reception. Not a loss of contact, a loss of coherence. The silence humanity experiences today may be entirely self-generated. The age of open channels. Long before recorded history, Earth existed within what the archives call the open channel age. Communication between worlds did not require spacecraft. It did not require antennas. It did not require machines. It required alignment. Ancient civilizations understood that consciousness itself participated in communication. Planetary geometry participated in communication. Symbols participated in communication. Music participated in communication. Architecture participated in communication. Human beings were not isolated observers standing outside the system. They were components of the system. Everything worked together. The cities, the monuments, the ceremonial sites, the star maps, the harmonic structures, the planetary field itself. Earth was readable. Earth was synchronized. Earth was connected. Communication flowed naturally because the civilization understood how to maintain resonance. The archives describe this period as one of extraordinary clarity, not perfection, clarity. The signal moved cleanly. The channels remained open. The network functioned. The first distortions. The collapse did not begin suddenly. There was no single catastrophe, no singular invasion, no dramatic moment when the sky went dark. The first signs appeared as subtle distortions. Excuse me. Tiny misalignments, small losses of understanding. Symbols began losing meaning. Knowledge became ritual. Ritual became tradition. Tradition became imitation. Eventually, entire civilizations continued performing actions whose original purpose had long been forgotten. The structures remained. The understanding disappeared. Generation by generation, the communication systems became less functional. Humanity retained the shell. The signal gradually faded from awareness. The rise of fear civilizations. The archives identify a turning point, a moment when fear ceased being a survival response and became a governing principle. Entire civilizations reorganized around threat, scarcity, competition, control, domination, protection, separation. Fear became infrastructure. Fear became economics. Fear became politics. Fear became identity. This altered the planetary field dramatically. The old systems depended on openness, curiosity, participation, exploration. The fear systems produced the opposite. Walls replaced bridges. Defensiveness replaced discovery. Control replaced trust. The channels narrowed accordingly. The records repeatedly describe fear as a resonance constrictor. The more a civilization organizes around fear, the less capable it becomes of participating within larger relational systems. The death of the symbols. One of the most devastating losses involves symbolic collapse. Modern humanity treats symbols as decoration, branding, art, religion, culture. The archives reveal that they once served a much larger function. Symbols operated as compression architectures. A single symbol contained multiple informational layers simultaneously. mathematics, astronomy, history, emotion, geometry, consciousness, resonance. A properly understood symbol functioned like a multidimensional transmission. Ancient civilizations used them constantly. As understanding declined, the symbols survived, but their operating systems disappeared. The result was catastrophic. Humanity inherited the keys while forgetting what the locks were. The symbolic network gradually degraded into mythology, then folklore, then superstition. Eventually, the symbols remained visible everywhere, while their purpose became invisible. The fall of the geometric network. The archives repeatedly referenced something called the geometric network. This was not a technological grid. It was a planetary coherence architecture. Monuments, stone circles, pyramids, resonance chambers, alignment structures, observation complexes, planetary markers. They were never intended to function independently. They functioned together as a system, a planetary scale communication lattice. The locations were chosen with extraordinary precision, geological precision, astronomical precision, resonance precision. Over thousands of years, the network deteriorated. Sites were destroyed, repurposed, forgotten, buried, disconnected. What once functioned as a synchronized planetary architecture became isolated archaeological curiosities. Humanity continued studying the pieces while forgetting the existence of the whole. The Great Fragmentation. As the old systems weakened, something unprecedented occurred. Humanity fragmented psychologically. Shared reality began breaking apart. Shared meaning began dissolving. Collective coherence declined. The species increasingly divided into incompatible perceptual systems. Different truths, different realities, different interpretations, different identities, different worlds occupying the same world. The archives describe this period as the Great Fragmentation, not because humanity became physically separated, but because humanity became informationally separated. The civilization stopped perceiving itself as one system. The node fractured. The signal degraded. The emotional noise field. The records identify a second turning point, the industrialization of emotional amplification. For most of human history, emotions remained local. A village felt fear. A city felt grief. A region experienced conflict. The modern era changed everything. For the first time in planetary history, billions of people became emotionally linked through continuous information exchange. Every outrage, every disaster, every conflict, every fear, every crisis, every trauma, every division, broadcast instantly, globalized immediately, repeated continuously. Think about the impact of that. That's catastrophic. Humanity unknowingly created the largest emotional amplification system ever recorded. The archives classify this phenomenon as emotional noise pollution. The planetary field became saturated with turbulence. The signal remained. The interference multiplied. The technological divergence. Contrary to popular assumptions, the archives do not blame technology. Technology was never the problem. Imbalance was. Humanity advanced its external systems faster than its internal systems. Communication expanded, understanding contracted, connectivity expanded, coherence contracted, information expanded, wisdom contracted. The civilization became louder than any civilization before it. Meanwhile, it simultaneously became less capable of hearing itself. The network did not disappear. The noise overwhelmed it. The last clear transmission. Among the most haunting records recovered from the archives is a reference to what became known as the last clear transmission. The transmission itself remains incomplete. Only fragments survived. The surviving portions appear repeatedly across multiple archive layers. The message warned of increasing interference, increasing fragmentation, increasing instability. The final surviving line reads, "When the signal becomes indistinguishable from noise, they will believe the silence is real." That breaks my heart to even hear that and read it out loud. After that point, the channels entered rapid decline. Earth remained active. The network remained active. Communication became increasingly difficult. The disclosure event. The approaching disclosure window represents the first large-scale attempt to address the underlying problem, not by creating contact, but by restoring context. The disclosure process is not expected to generate a signal. The signal already exists. It always existed. The objective is recognition, to demonstrate that communication may never have stopped, only perception failed. The implications are enormous because humanity is not approaching first contact. Humanity is approaching first recognition, the silence that was never silent. This is the final revelation contained within the archive. The silence was never silence. The corridors remained. The gateways remained. The network remained. The transmissions remained. The universe did not stop speaking. Humanity gradually lost the ability to distinguish signal from interference, fear from interference. Fragmentation became interference. Trauma became interference. Noise became interference. The signal survived beneath it all, waiting, not for the visitors to return, not for humanity to become coherent enough to hear what never stopped speaking. End of dossier. Archive status active, signal status present, interference status critical. Jason Gray. So many heartbreaking truths about how we lost our ability to hear the signal based on how we fragmented as a species and just bought into all the fear and the programming and everything else that's going on. It's truly heartbreaking when you think about it. Like I said, the full global impact of it and what that has done to us, to the planet, to other worlds, to consciousness, everything. Absolutely everything. All right. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.